Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan, and this is my senior capstone proposal. And the title of my project, or the working title of my project, is called Finding Culture. So, just a little bit about myself. My name is Ryan. I am a four-year student here at UH West Oahu. I graduated from Kamema School's Kapalama in 2019, and my degree or my major is creative media with concentration in communication and new technologies. Here's a summary of what my presentation will be about. I will first talk about my plans for my project and what I intend to create. On the next slide, I'll state my thesis, and then I'll talk about the objective rationale of research conducted. So the reasons why I chose my topic and my hopes for what I want to achieve. And then lastly, the significance of my proposed project idea. So my thesis statement is cultural representation in media, particularly film, is important in today's society to provide an accurate representation of that said culture. So why cultural representation in film? Well, first looking at the culture aspect of all of this, the main reason why I chose this topic was because I feel like culture has always been a kind of gray area for me. I've struggled with not necessarily finding what my culture is, but more so being able to create a deeper connection with it. But in order to do that, I first had to define what it means to me because ultimately everyone has their own definition of what culture is and what it means to be a part of it. And in the process, I do have to say that my high school played a major role in aiding me with first defining what it means and then taking it further by constantly exposing me to those elements of my culture, which is Hawaiian. At the same time, it did contribute to my wavering understanding and confusion by creating high expectations and standards of what a good or true Hawaiian should look like and what they're supposed to do. But in the end, I don't only identify as Hawaiian, I also consider myself as Filipino. That's what I've been telling everyone for as long as I can remember. But it's one thing to say it and then another thing to actually connect with it. So that's where I kind of struggle with because my family doesn't really practice any cultures, traditions, or speak the language. So it made it difficult to connect it to it deeper rather than just saying I am Hawaiian. However, I do feel like that's the first step in all of this. So in a way, I wanted this research and this project to help aid me in my cultural journey and then to help others by providing advice or insight or whoever could be struggling with the same thing. And then looking at the film aspect, I wanted to incorporate just my high school passion for film. I feel like in today's society, film has become a major medium in popular culture, and it can be seen as very influential and can be used for conveying messages towards many different audiences, especially when they incorporate sensitive topics such as culture in them. And this then further involves the ideas of cultural representation and possible appropriation, which I feel that it's important to be aware of, especially in this society, so that people aren't negatively impacted unintentionally through anyone's content that they share. So with this project, I wanted to just raise more awareness of these ideas and topics, and then also possible results that could happen if inaccurate representations are being spread through film across the world or any media really. And then moving on for my project, I feel like I was inspired a lot by TikTok videos of creators just going around in public and just starting conversations with strangers in the street. I wanted to possibly create either a documentary type style video at first of finding culture in the real world and just having conversations with that. I would collect strangers' opinions and advice on the topic. This could also turn into an ongoing project if I do want to continue making these kind of videos in the future, where I would just create a social media account, maybe just on YouTube or TikTok, and just continue to post these videos. I feel that especially when discussing like culture and these kinds of ideas, it'll be impactful if we gain insight from real people in the world. Especially in Hawaii, there's so many different people and different cultures present. It'll be able to provide multiple perspectives. But in the end, I do feel like it'll be the responsibility of the viewers. It'll fall on them. It'll be up to them to decide what they do with this information going forward. Moving on to significance. The first significance that I came up with is that basically it just raised more awareness on how to accurately portray cultures or sensitive ideas if they are being incorporated into people's media. I feel that the issue is that some people may not be aware that they are impacting people with their content. So this awareness would just prevent unintentional harm or consequences in the future, whether that be on a people or a culture that one is trying or unintentionally portraying, and then also on the users themselves or whoever is sharing the content. Like seen with major companies, a lot of them have dealt with backlash when they unintentionally portray something inaccurately that could be seen in their future films that they want to produce or their audiences around the world. And then moving on to the second one, the second significance is cultural identity. With film and other media just becoming an important aspect of our daily lives, whatever ideas that are being conveyed through these content can have an impact on how we perceive ourselves, whether that be indirectly or not. It is a possible outcome and have been seen with other cultures around the world. With this, it'll just strengthen future generations and their perspective on themselves and their people's culture. And then looking at the data and then also connecting back to the previous slide, Disney's Aladdin was an example of that. In my research, it was said that the Arabs already had stereotypes painted about them. So one was that they were just seen as violent, and the film just kind of reinforced those stereotypes even more, creating a disconnect between future generations of like the children and their cultural identity, making them ashamed of their culture. And companies such as Disney have been representing cultures for years, and with each film come a wide variety of reactions and reviews. And another example would include Disney's Moana, where stereotypes of obesity and arrogance were taken and they were reinforced and portrayed through different characters such as Maui. And in the film, it even represented the goddess Pele and it painted her as a fiery monster. And then moving on to target audience, the first target audience that I wanted to aim towards was major film companies who create these films with these ideas incorporated. Hopefully, it'll just show some insight on what's being impacted on a deeper level for them. The next one is people who struggle with cultural identity. The hope is that it'll provide advice and possible solutions on what could be done or what they could look at when going on this journey. And then I also just added myself, since in the beginning, I wanted this project to kind of help me in that process as well. And then moving on to the proposed solution, my video's intention would be to spread more awareness about the ideas of culture and representation in film, but ultimately in any media. At a higher level, I feel like there's nothing that can be done to change big companies. All we can do is just educate ourselves on how to accurately portray these ideas. We can start with ourselves and then monitor how we communicate those ideas in our own media. And the preparation or process for pre-production, I guess the main thing is just preparing for these interviews or like talk about location, questions, who's going to be involved in the filming, and then schedules. In the production aspect, is the actually like going out and creating these interviews, making connections, and then filming the content. And then post-production is just putting everything together first in an initial documentary style video, and then possibly creating more videos and then posting it to a social media account. So the first one, like I mentioned before, this is the first kind of deliverable that I might want to do is more like a documentary type style video. I'll just compile all the interviews together and then incorporate my own narrations. And then this video will most likely be posted to YouTube. And then the second one kind of involves the first one. It's similar to the first one where it'd be done in a TikTok type style or aesthetic. Instead of just creating one video, I would do multiple shorter ones. In the style seen in the picture, it would just be shorter videos that still go over these same topics. And then that's it for my presentation.